In a quiet town called Zora, there lived a beautiful girl named Anna. She was admired by everyone in the village. Men from far and wide came to ask for her hand in marriage. No one could deny her beauty. Her glowing skin, her radiant smile, and kind eyes made her the talk of the town. Every morning she would walk to the market square, her presence lighting up the entire street. But no matter how many men asked her to marry them, Anna couldn't say yes. Instead, she preferred to spend time with them, only to send them away once she was done. It wasn't because she didn't want love. Anna had a deep secret, one she couldn't share with anyone except her two best friends, Lyra and May. She trusted them completely and confided in them about her struggles. Anna had something inside her, something that made her feel restless. She couldn't spend a day without being with a man. It wasn't just one man. Sometimes it was even 10 in a single day. It wasn't because she wanted to, but because she had to. There was a fire inside her that she couldn't control. Since she was 20 years old, Anna had felt a strange burning in her body that made her feel restless. She started seeking out men to calm the fire. But no matter what she did, the feeling never went away. By the time she turned 30, the problem had grown worse. She had lost count of how many times she had sought help, but no one knew how to help her. Anna had slept with almost all the men in her town because she had a very high fire between her legs that needed to be constantly satisfied. In quiet moments, Anna would sit by the riverbank, her thoughts consumed by shame and regret. She had even paid men to be with her just to ease the burning inside her, but nothing worked. Every night she would lie in bed and cry, wondering why she was cursed with this terrible secret. She didn't want to live this way, but it seemed impossible to stop. Her parents were clueless about what was happening to their beautiful daughter. They often pressured her to get married, saying, "Anna, you are so beautiful. Why don't you settle down with a nice man?" But Anna couldn't tell them the truth. How could she explain that one man would never be enough for her? How could she marry when she needed many men every day? So she kept her secret, telling her parents she wasn't ready for marriage, even though the real reason was far darker. One day, while walking out of a small cafe, Anna bumped into a young man named Leo. He was kind and gentle, and for the first time in her life, Anna felt something strange, something different. Her heart raced and her cheeks flushed. Leo smiled at her and said, "No worries, are you okay?" Anna nodded quickly. Anna nodded quickly, unable to speak, unable to speak. As Leo offered her a ride home, she found herself agreeing without hesitation. That night, after their chance meeting, Anna couldn't stop thinking about him. She felt something she hadn't felt before. Hope. Maybe, just maybe, Leo could be different. As days went by, Anna and Leo grew closer. They spent more time together, often strolling by the town's flower garden or sitting under the old oak tree by the lake. Soon enough, Leo confessed his love for her. Anna was overjoyed. For the first time, she believed she could have a normal life. Maybe this love would take away her secret and the fire inside her would disappear. But it didn't. Even though Anna loved Leo deeply, the burning desire didn't stop. She tried to hide it, but soon she found herself sneaking away to meet other men on a daily basis. She hated herself for it, but she couldn't resist the pull. The guilt ate away at her. Every time she was with Leo, she felt like she was lying to him. She wanted to be faithful, but the fire was too strong in between her legs. One evening, Leo surprised Anna with a proposal. He got down on one knee and asked, "Will you marry me?" Anna was shocked and said yes. She couldn't wait to share the news with her best friends, Lyra and May. The three friends met at their usual spot the next day. Anna proudly showed off her engagement ring, her smile wide and bright. Lyra and Mai cheered for her, hugging her tightly and celebrating this big moment in her life. They drank and laughed, imagining the beautiful life Anna was about to have with Leo. But deep inside, May felt something dark. She had always been in Anna's shadow. May had struggled to find love herself, and now she couldn't understand how Anna, who carried such a dark secret, could be the one to get everything. May felt bitter and jealous. How could someone who slept with so many men be rewarded with love and happiness, while she, May, was left with nothing? May couldn't stop the jealousy from growing. It ate away at her until she came up with a plan to stop Anna's wedding. The big day arrived. Anna and Leo were surrounded by friends and family, and the wedding hall was beautifully decorated. The fragrance of fresh roses filled the air as soft music played in the background. Everyone was excited to witness their love. But just as Anna and Leo were about to exchange their rings, something strange happened. The large screen in the hall flickered, and a video started playing. It wasn't a sweet video of Anna and Leo's journey together. No, it was something much worse. It was a video recording of Anna sleeping with different men. The guests gasped in shock as the sounds of their voices filled the room. Anna's secret was out for everyone to see. Leo's face turned pale. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. Anna stood frozen, her world crashing down around her. The whispers in the room grew louder, and Anna could feel the weight of everyone's judgments. Leo didn't say a word. He walked out of the hall, leaving Anna behind. Anna ran after him, crying and begging him to listen, but it was too late. Leo was too hurt. He drove away, leaving Anna standing there, broken and alone. Lyra quickly rushed to Anna's side, helping her into a car and driving her into a car and driving her into a car and driving her home. Anna cried uncontrollably, wondering how her life had come to this. She knew her secret would destroy her, but she never thought it would happen this way. The days that followed were filled with pain and regret. Anna's heart ached for Leo, but she knew the hard truth was difficult to face. She couldn't live with her secret any longer. She needed help, real help to deal with the fire inside. You must be wondering who had played that video on Anna's wedding day. It was May, her friend, the one she trusted with her secrets. May had actually taken a secret recording of Anna with other men and played it on the screen on her wedding day just to end the marriage, all because of envy and jealousy. Anna didn't know May was involved. She still treated May like a friend and sister. May kept on putting fire into Leo and Anna's relationship, seeking different ways to get Leo's attention. She said to herself, since I have succeeded in destroying the relationship between Leo and Anna, I think I can have Leo to myself. Why would someone who is always sleeping with many men marry this handsome man and not me? Ma can't. I must get Leo. She tried so hard, but it failed because Leo wasn't interested in anything that had to do with Anya, let alone being with her friend. Anna, on the other hand, decided to seek professional help. She found a doctor who specialized in the disorder she had, and slowly, Through therapy and treatment, she began to heal. It wasn't easy, but Anna knew she had to fight for her life. One day, after many months of healing, Anna received a letter from Leo. In it, he told her that while he was hurt by what had happened, he still cared about her and wanted her to get better. He also went ahead to write that he later realized that it wasn't Anna's fault. It was a health condition. He told her to call the phone number in the letter. Out of all excitement, Anna called Leo through the phone number written in the letter, and they had a very lengthy conversation that led to a reconciliation. Leo and Anna's relationship kick-started all over again, and Leo was ready to support Anna through her therapy to get healed completely from her high libido issues. May, on the other hand, realized that she couldn't have Leo and that she had done so much harm to her friend Anna. She decided to seek forgiveness. She begged Anna to please forgive her, saying she was so sorry. Anna, with her good heart, forgave May, but the friendship could never be like before. Leo and Anna eventually got married, and her friend Lyra was the chief bridesmaid. They were all so happy, and they lived their life happily ever after. The lesson we can draw from this story is profound and timeless. Secrets, no matter how deeply buried, have a way of surfacing. It is crucial to confront our challenges openly and seek help early. Suppressing the truth or hiding behind it can lead to regret and greater harm, both to ourselves and those around us. Furthermore, we must exercise caution in choosing the people we confide in, as not everyone we call a friend has our best interests at heart. In some situations, being our own confidant is the safest option. Let this story be a reminder of the importance of self-honesty and the value of trustworthy friendships. Together, these principles form the foundation of personal growth, healing, and lasting relationships. Thank you for watching and supporting my channel. If you haven't yet subscribed, please do so and enable notifications to be the first to enjoy more enlightening stories like this. For returning subscribers, I deeply appreciate your continued support. See you in the next video. So the next day, Amara, a 23-year-old woman, sat in front of her house, waiting patiently for her suitor. Next to her was a pot of water, which she planned to pour on the man as soon as she sighted him. A long time ago, in Umu, there lived an orphan called Amara, who lived alone in her hut since her parents passed away. She lived there quietly, never bothering anyone. But as she began to grow into a woman, her uncles, who never cared for her after her parents' death, decided it was time for her to get married because they were eager to share the bride price they would receive from her suitor. So, without informing her, they began searching for a husband to marry their niece. And of course, it was not going to be a difficult task because Amara was a very beautiful woman. When the young men of the village sat to discuss women, Amara's beauty was the standard of measurement used to examine them. But Amara was ignorant of all that was going on. Whenever men tried to approach her, she would ignore them, and if they persisted, she would embarrass them. "I guess you're waiting for a king to marry you," some men would tease her. But Amara never cared about what they said. She barely had any friends, and she never invited anyone to her hut. The ladies in the village always thought of her as proud. They concluded that her beauty had gotten into her head. The only person Amara gave access to her life was Boma. Boma was her neighbor in the market where Amara sold foodstuff. But no matter how friendly they were, their conversations never left the borders of the market. Weeks passed. Amara's uncles called her for a meeting. They wanted to discuss their choice of husband with her. "We have patiently waited for you to bring a husband, but you have failed to do so. Therefore, we have taken it upon ourselves to find one for you," one of them said. They told her that their chosen suitor would visit her at her hut the following day. So, the next day, Amara sat in front of her hut, waiting patiently for her suitor. Next to her was a pot of water, which she planned to pour on the man as soon as she sighted him. When the man began approaching the hut, Amara grabbed the pot, ran towards him, and flung the water on the. Then she carried a big stick and began chasing him. When the news got to her uncles, they summoned her, and Amara faked remorse. She knelt and begged them, promising she would not do it again. "It's okay, my daughter," one of them said. "Although you have lost the first man, we have another one for you." So the following week, Amara sat in front of her hut, waiting for her second suitor. But this time, she had a gun beside her. The gun belonged to her late father, who was a hunter. When she saw the man approaching her hut, she picked up her gun and made gunshot sounds in the air, and the man ran in fear for his life. When her uncles heard the news, they called and threatened to deal with her if she continued that way. But Amara was not moved. When they sent the third suitor, she waited for him a bit further away from her hut. And when she saw him, she pretended like she was going to hug him, but she bit his shoulder instead. The man, who was in pain, left Amara behind, running for his dear life. Now news about Amara and her suitors had spread around the village, and Amara was happy about it because everyone would now understand that she was not interested in a suitor for a reason she did not care to share with anyone. But there was a certain man called Chioke who was determined to marry Amara, despite the stories in the village. He insisted she was his choice to an extent. He did not believe what people said about her, because whenever he saw Amara, she was always calm and she never displayed any aggressive behavior. So he decided to try and become her friend before seeking her hand in marriage. Perhaps those men were strangers to her, he thought to himself. So one day he went to Amara's shop to patronize her business, and how she sold the foodstuff to him further proved she was not a difficult person. So daily he would go to buy one thing or the other from her shop. And one day, an opportunity to have a conversation with her presented itself. Amara was struggling with some bulk calculations due to the large amount of goods she had just received. Chioke overheard her and gave her instant answers to her calculations. She looked at him in doubt and then continued with her calculations. Eventually, she arrived at the same answer. She said with a smile on her face, hailing Chioke's smartness. Chioke was very excited. It was the first interaction they had had aside from business. He quickly finished the remaining calculations, and Amara offered him a drink, but he declined. Weeks passed, and Chioke kept coming to the shop. But now his conversations with Amara were more than business. Sometimes he even helped her to do some calculations. One evening he came to buy something as usual, but Amara was already packed to go home. However, because of Chioke, she unlocked her store and sold to him. But as she loaded some items on her wheelbarrow, she realized the tire was flat. "What will I do now?" Amara exclaimed. Chioke, can you help me carry some of my things? She asked him. To your house? He asked her. But Amara angrily responded, Of course not. I will tell you where to stop. They both began walking away from the market square, and as they walked, Chioke thought it was the best time to tell Amara about his feelings. I like you, Amara. Please, I want you to be my wife, he said. Immediately Amara heard those words, she stopped walking and stared at him intensely. Is that why you have been coming to my shop every day? She asked him in annoyance. Chioke slowly nodded. Immediately she asked him to drop her things by the road. Don't help me again. You can go home, she said. Chioke tried to plead with her, but Amara was not having it. However, he was not going to allow her to carry all those items herself. So against her will, he started walking fast towards her house. When Amara realized what he was doing, she quickly ran after him, shouting, Don't go close to my hut. If I catch you there, I will shoot you. But Chioke did not plan to invade her privacy. He just wanted to drop the items close enough for her to carry them to her house. After he dropped the items, he began walking away. But as he walked away, Amara smiled shyly. She definitely had feelings for him, but she instantly wiped that smile off her face. Of course, I can't marry him, she said to herself as she began carrying her items into the house. The next day, Chioke came to see Amara at her shop, but she would not attend to him. She asked him to leave, but he quickly moved to Boma's shop. I want to buy something from Boma, he said to her. Amara looked at him, confused, and said, What could you possibly want to buy from Boma? She sells women's beads. But Boma, who had observed that Chioke liked Amara, quickly came to his rescue. Leave my customer. Don't chase him away, she said. So every day Chioke would come and buy beads from Boma, and Amara would eagerly wait for him to come. And any time he was late, she would be visibly upset. It was now obvious she liked Chioke, and Boma would seize every opportunity to tease her about it. 2 months later, Boma told Amara that a suitor had come to marry her, and that she would be leaving the village soon. Amara was very happy for her friend, but she was also sad because she knew she would be left all by herself. And it soon dawned on her that she would be that way for the rest of her life. So she came up with a plan to have children, and it involved Chioke. At least if she could not get married, she could definitely have kids. The next day, she set out to look for him to accept his proposal. Chioke, she said, if you still want to marry me, I am ready to accept your proposal. Chioke smiled and nodded in approval. Amara, thank you for accepting my proposal, he said. He asked her to wait while he ran to get something from his house. When he came back, he handed her the beads he had been buying from Boma. They were all for her. Amara blushed at his gesture, but their conversation was not over. She had some conditions. We will not live in the same house, and I will never sleep over at your house either, she said. Chioke was puzzled. What kind of arrangement is that? He asked her. I will fulfill all my obligations as your wife, but my conditions remain unchanged. Amara trembled as she spoke because she knew she might lose him. Chioke pressed to find out why she had such strict conditions, but she refused to answer. Well, I can't live that way, he said to her, but I assure you that whatever it is, you can tell me, and we will solve it together. Amara burst into tears. Now she knew she was going to be alone forever. Chioke tried to console her, but she was inconsolable. Eventually, she left him and returned to her hut. 2 days passed and Chijo kept coming to the market to check on Amara, but she was nowhere to be found. Boma did not know her whereabouts either. He was so worried that he decided to go close to her hut and shout her name. Amara, he shouted at the top of his voice. But even after he called her several times, Amara was not responding. Her windows were open. Chijioke became scared. He decided to move closer to her hut, even though he knew Amara might despise him. As he walked, he kept shouting her name, hoping she would respond so he would refrain from entering her house. But still there was no response. However, he noticed a strong stench, which only became stronger as he moved closer to the hut. Chijioke pushed the door open and saw Amara lying sick on the bed. "Please, leave my house," Amara said faintly, with tears in her eyes. Chijio quickly ran and called the herbalist to attend to her. The smell would not allow the herbalist to stay too long in the house, but Chijioke was not fazed by it. While the herbalist waited outside, Chijioke would go in with the medicine and feed it to Amara. Long after the herbalist had gone, he stayed with Amara and urged her to go back to bed. But Amara refused to. However, because of how tired she was, she eventually did. While Chijioke waited for her to wake up, he cooked her a meal, washed her clothes, and began cleaning the hut. But while he was cleaning around her bed, he noticed there was a huge patch of water where Amara lay down. He was shocked because it was not there before she slept. Upon closer examination, he realized Amara had wet the bed. Chijioke was very shocked. He sniffed her mattress and realized it smelled of stale urine. Amara was a bed wetter. It definitely explained the stench of urine in the house. When Amara woke up, she was ashamed that her secret had been discovered. "Amara, please don't be ashamed," Chijioke said to her. "How can a grown woman be urinating on her bed when she goes to sleep?" she responded. But Chijioke consoled her, urging her not to cry. Amara had an issue with her bladder, which led to her bed wetting over the years. It was a condition she had to live with her whole life, and that was why she refused to get married. She did not believe any man would accept her that way. But not Chijioke. He still insisted on marrying Amara. "Chijioke, this happens to me every night," she told him. But he responded, "And we will deal with it together every day." The next day, Chijioke did not show up as promised, and Amara became scared that he had abandoned her. She walked into the village to look for him, but noticed a group of girls looking at her strangely. She thought Chijioke had spread her secret. In anger, she shouted, "And so what? It's not my fault I urinate on the bed. You all can judge me for all I care." "Amara!" Chijioke screamed. He was just walking toward her house. Although he was meant to arrive early in the morning, he decided to meet with some hut builders who would help him build a better house with proper ventilation, where he and Amara would live as a couple. When Amara realized she had spilled her secret to a group of girls who were talking about something completely different, she ran back to her house and Chijioke followed her. "The villagers will all know now," she cried. But he consoled her and said, "Whatever comes, Amara, we will deal with it together." Amara looked him in the eyes, and she knew he was not a liar. She blamed herself for not believing him when he said he would come back for her, and she felt even worse when she realized what he had been doing all morning. Chioke and Amara eventually got married and lived happily. He took care of his wife, helping her wherever necessary to reduce how frequently she wet the bed. They worked as a team to improve the overall hygiene of their home, making it presentable enough for guests to visit comfortably. And despite what the villagers had to say, it did not matter to them because they were the happiest couple in the village. Amara even went on to make more friends who loved her despite her condition. Today, I'll be speaking to you about true friendship, the type of friendship everyone should pray to experience in their lifetime. Sometimes we go through situations that the world will judge us for, but one of the best assets to have to survive tough times is solid friendships. The Bible says in Proverbs 18:24 that there are friends who destroy each other, but a real friend sticks closer than a brother. Here, you can see that the Bible even rates this friend higher than a family member. It's just trying to state the high extent of loyalty or reliability you can expect from this friend. I pray we all experience this type of friendship in our lifetime. In Jesus' name. Amara and Chioke's story teaches us that true love and friendship go beyond imperfections and societal judgments. It reminds us that with patience, compassion, and unwavering support, even the deepest insecurities can be overcome. Life's challenges are easier to face when we have someone who genuinely stands by us, no matter the circumstances. I hope this story inspires you to embrace empathy and kindness in your relationships. If you enjoyed this, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more heartfelt stories. See you next time. A long time ago, in the village of Ako, there lived a bold and beautiful woman called Zena. Unlike every other young woman in her late 20s who desired to be married to a young man, she had no interest in such things. To her, relationships were business. She traded her body for wealth, living on her own terms. Many married women in the village shamed her severely, and she would respond saying, "It's not my fault your husbands prefer my hips to yours." Her sharp, confident voice often echoed through the marketplace, drawing amused glances from passers-by. When the younger women teased her about being unmarried, Zena would laugh at them in the face and say, "You and your starving husbands can't even afford 3 square meals." The men of Akko were captivated by her. She had mastered the art of seduction, from the subtle sway of her hips as she walked through the village to the intoxicating perfumes she wore, crafted from rare local herbs. Once a man had her, he always came back for more. Rumors whispered that even the king had fallen under her spell. She was unstoppable. Zena was attractive, rich and influential, a true force to be reckoned with. One evening, while strolling through the village, her intricately woven head wrap catching the golden rays of the setting sun, Zena overheard an exciting piece of gossip. A rich chief named Toba was coming to do business in Akko. Chief Toba was no ordinary man. He was the biggest palm nut exporter in the East. That was a jackpot. All day, Zena thought of how much she could get from the chief if she successfully went to bed with him. It would be the biggest deal she had gotten in almost 2 years. The next day, Zena sought out her trusted contacts to gather every detail about Chief Toba, when he would arrive, where he would stay, and his purpose in Ako. She met them in secluded corners of the village, under the shade of large baobab trees, ensuring their conversation. When she had gotten the information, she began her preparations. During the day, Zena secluded herself, indulging in beauty rituals to perfect her appearance. She spent hours applying shea butter to her skin until it gleamed under the sun. In the evenings, when the sun was down, she took long walks to stay fit, met with her tailor to design stunning dresses embroidered with gold threads, and quietly gathered more information about the chief. By the time he arrived, Zena was ready. Her sources informed her that the chief had come to buy hectares of land to expand his business in Akko. So, in the evening, while he was inspecting the land, Zena made her way there, her bold patterned dress flowing in the evening breeze, and strategically waited for him. As he finished his inspection, on his way out, Zena walked past him with her head held high. Nobody could convince her that she was not the most beautiful woman in the world. Chief Toba stopped in his tracks. He had seen beauty, but this woman was a revelation. The glow of the setting sun seemed to dance on her radiant skin, and her every movement exuded confidence. She swept him off his feet with her elegance. Immediately he approached her, and she reluctantly answered him, behaving like she had not come there to see him. "Young maid, I do not want to keep you out here for too long. Please, can I send my guards to bring you to my home? I would like to discuss something important with you," the chief said. Zena glanced at the men surrounding him and noticed one of her contacts among them. Smiling inwardly, she decided to change her approach. Without a word, she walked away, her anklets jingling softly with every step, knowing her contact would guide the chief back to her. But also, she knew that this would increase his longing for her. As expected, later in the evening, the chief visited her home with the help of her contact. He sent her maid to call her, but Zena sent word back that she would not be able to come out as it was almost her bedtime. She added that if he was interested in seeing her, he should return the following morning. The chief felt insulted, but he just wanted to speak to this beauty by all means. The next morning, Chief Toba arrived at Zena's house promptly, as if she were the hectares of land he had come to buy. Well, Zena knew she had him right where she wanted him. Briefly, he expressed himself, stating that he liked her and wanted to take care of her. Zena laughed and said, "Many men have offered, and I turned them down. What makes you so different from them?" The chief waved his hand like he had expected such questions, and immediately the guards he came with placed gifts of gold and pearls at her feet. Zena jubilated in her heart. She had not even gone to bed with him, and he had already enriched her. She asked the chief to come back in the night, and of course he did. That night they lay together. For the entirety of the chief's stay, Zena spent every night with him, and every day she received wonderful gifts from him. When he finally left, he promised he would call her to be his companion when he was traveling to other villages. But Zena did not care so much about that. What he had given her was more than she bargained for. As she watched the chief leave, she said to herself, "The game is mine to play, and I always win." But she was wrong. She had played a dangerous game this time. The chief had 3 terrible wives who had sworn to scare any woman the chief showed interest in so they could protect their children's inheritance. When the chief returned, they received feedback from one of his guards about his escapades with Zena. The wives were furious, especially when they heard about the many gifts he had given her. "This woman must be stopped. It might become something serious. We cannot afford to let our husband marry her," one of them said, slamming her hand on the low wooden table in their grand courtyard. The others, dressed in elaborate wrappers and beads, nodded in agreement. When Chief Toba traveled again for business, the wives gathered a group of strong men and journeyed to Akko, determined to confront Zena. The journey was long, passing through dense forests and dusty roads, but their anger kept them focused. Just like fate would have it, when they asked around in the village, a woman told them that she had seen Zena heading to the market square. The woman, who held a grudge because Zena had laid with her husband in the past, happily led them straight to Zena. The market square was bustling with activity. Women sold vegetables and spices under colorful umbrellas. Children ran barefoot chasing each other, and the smell of roasting plantains wafted through the air. As soon as the women saw Zena, she stood out in the crowd, dressed in a vibrant orange dress with gold embroidery. They brought out long whips they had concealed under their shawls and began to flog her in the middle of the market square, calling her derogatory names. The strong men attacked anyone who dared to interfere. One young boy, seeing the commotion, cried out, "Leave her alone," but was quickly silenced by a glare from one of the men. Not many interfered because the women felt Zena deserved what she was getting. Shoppers and traders paused their activities, some whispering in disapproval, while others watched in silent agreement. When the women had their fill, they left Zena lying in the mud, her dress torn and her body badly bruised. A crowd gathered but kept their distance, unsure of how to help. Zena cried for help, but nobody answered. The men avoided her, not wanting to anger their wives. However, there was a young man called C who stood at a distance watching all that had happened. His fists clenched as he tried to suppress his anger. Initially, he had tried to intervene, but he could not overpower the strong men. Now that the coast was clear, he pushed through the onlookers and went over to Zena. He carefully lifted her from the ground, her limp body barely able to hold itself upright, and carried her home. The walk back to her house was silent, except for the sound of Sei's labored breathing and Zena's faint groans of pain. When he finally placed her on her bed, Zena weakly said, "Thank you so much. How can I ever repay you?" The man smiled, as if he had waited for that question all his life, and responded, "Do not worry. I will lay with you when you are strong enough. Just get well soon." Then immediately he went away, his sandals slapping against the wooden floor as he left. His intention was not pure. He was just one of the many men who wanted but could not afford Zena. When he saw a chance, he grabbed it with arms wide open. Zena began to weep, her tears soaking the pillow beneath her head. For the first time, she realized how much she had ruined her reputation. She thought of her late parents, how poor they had been, and how she had promised herself she would never live like them. But now she could not help but wonder, was it all worth it? She had been publicly shamed in the market square and had lowered herself by being with many men just to have food on her table. As the lantern in her room flickered weakly, Zena promised herself never to return to that lifestyle. She decided she would use all the money she had earned to make investments and live a comfortable lifestyle. Eventually, she let out a deep sigh, her body trembling from exhaustion, and slowly drifted off to sleep. Weeks passed, and Zena's body had healed, but she remained indoors because she was ashamed to face everyone. The once lively young woman who used to walk through the village with her head held high now stayed behind closed doors, her curtains drawn tight. One day, however, Chief Toba returned to visit her. When Zena heard from her maid that he had come, she sat on her bed, her heart racing. She sent word back saying she was not interested in seeing him. But the chief kept begging, saying that he had heard of her ordeal with his wives and had put measures in place to ensure it would not happen again. Zena discarded the promise she had made to herself. Her heart began to soften, and she let the chief in. He apologized again, expressing how much he missed her. Then he said, "Marry me, Zena. I have not been able to stop thinking about you." The room fell silent except for the faint chirping of birds outside the window. Zena was not shocked by his proposal. She had heard similar offers from men who had been with her, but she was particularly intrigued by his offer, or perhaps it came at the right time. She had chosen to forsake her old ways, and now she could live off his wealth for the rest of her life without ever worrying about money. She thought deeply about his offer, her fingers tracing the patterns on her embroidered blanket, and just before he left, she accepted his proposal. Zena found a new sense of confidence. She began to strut around the village with some of the guards the chief had left for her safety. Their uniforms gleamed in the sunlight, a constant reminder of her elevated status. The villagers did not have the audacity to speak recklessly to the great Chief Toba's future wife. Zena laughed in their faces, unprovoked, especially at those who mocked her on the day she was beaten up. "Were you really thinking Zena would be down forever?" she would say to them, her voice filled with defiance. "Never. I'm not like you, stuck in your hopelessness." Her boldness drew mixed reactions. Some admired her resilience, while others whispered insults under their breath, careful not to let her or the guards hear. Some of them even began to think that perhaps their good way of living profited them nothing. Women who once condemned her began to envy her newfound wealth and protection. Some even wondered aloud if her ways had been the better choice. One evening, as the cool breeze carried the scent of roasted yams from nearby fires, Zena sat by her window, waiting for Toba to arrive at her hut. She had instructed her maid to prepare a feast, filling the air with the aroma of spiced stew and freshly pounded yam. However, as the evening wore on, the oil lamps in her home burned low, and Toba was still nowhere to be seen. Just when she had given up on him coming, her door flung open. It was not Chief Toba, it was his first wife, flanked by two of the guards he had left to protect Zena. The sight of them sent a chill down her spine. Zena immediately recognized the woman, her expensive wrapper and matching headscarf signifying her position as the chief's senior wife. For a moment, Zena thought the guards were on her side, so she stood her ground, her voice steady as she said, "What do you want here?" But before she could say more, the guard stepped forward and pushed her down. The wife laughed at her stupidity, a cruel, mirthless sound that echoed in the small room. "You foolish girl," the woman sneered, handing Zena a gourd filled with a dark, ominous liquid. "Do you know how I labored with this man you want to marry? We started this business from scratch, and what do I get in return? He chose to marry more wives, but not any more wives, but not any more." Zena's hands trembled as she held the gourd, her mind racing. She glanced at the guards, their expressions cold and unyielding. She was trapped with nowhere to go. She tried to delay, her voice shaky as she said, "I have done nothing to you. Let me go, and I promise I will leave him alone." The woman only smirked, folding her arms as if she had all the time in the world. "Drink it," she commanded. "Or would you rather I pour it down your throat?" Zena's heart pounded. She prayed silently, hoping Toba would arrive in time to save her. But one of the guards coldly informed her, "The chief is in a meeting and will not return tonight." Tears streamed down her face as she realized there was no escape. She begged for her life, her voice breaking, but her pleas fell on deaf ears. The guards were loyal to the first wife, their hands resting on the hilts of their swords in silent warning. With no hope of help, Zena picked up the gourd and drank the solution slowly, her throat burning with each swallow. Either way, she knew they would not let her leave. The liquid was bitter, its taste laced with a sickening finality. When she finished, she dropped the gourd, her body trembling. The chief's wife sat in satisfaction, staring at Zena as she clutched her stomach in pain. Her smug smile did not waver as Zena collapsed onto the floor, her breathing shallow and labored. When Zena finally passed away, the woman rose from her seat, smoothing the wrinkles from her wrapper, and left the hut with her guards in tow, her footsteps echoing in the now silent room. The next morning, the village buzzed with the news of Zena's death. Some whispered in hushed tones about the first wife's involvement, while others speculated that Zena's reckless lifestyle had finally caught up with her. The market square, once filled with her vibrant presence, now seemed eerily quiet. The moral lesson of this story is linked to Matthew 16:26, which says, "And what do you benefit if you gain the whole world but lose your own soul? Is anything worth more than your soul?" Zena was short-sighted. She wanted the pleasures of the world at any cost, forgetting that some things are too costly and not worth it. She squandered every opportunity for change and kept digging until she fell into her own pit, eventually losing her soul. In this journey of life, it is important to remember that every decision has consequences. Thank you for joining me on this journey through Zena's story, a powerful reminder that the choices we make today shape our future. As we reflect on her life, let us remember the value of integrity, the weight of consequences, and the importance of protecting our souls. Life offers us many paths, but only wisdom and humility lead to true fulfillment. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and comment on what resonated most with you. Until next time, stay inspired and take care.